Hey there, people of YouTube. Okay, so I am super excited right now, and you should be too. Today I'm going to do something I don't normally do, which is make a lot of fanboys happy, because this is a 5Ds video, and a positive one at that. So the reason I'm doing this is because I've had so many people ask me to make videos that solely focus on 5Ds, or highlight what I like about it, because most people just assume that I hate 5Ds, but I don't. I like it, it's just not my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh series. So I made two videos a while back. One was called Why Zexal Doesn't Suck, and a lot of people liked that video, so I made one for Arc 5 as well, which is unfortunately taken down by the Cersei Lannister of YouTube, known as NAS. So anyways, I knew that eventually I had to make one for 5Ds as well. But I don't think I could take this on alone because I might not be able to do it justice. So I recruited a 5Ds fanboy to help me out with this. So I am joined today by the man who probably needs no introduction and is probably the only reason why you're even watching this right now. There's two people who probably live under a rock and might not know who you are. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. My name is Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, or Dylan from anime, but you most likely know me from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything. I am that 5Ds fanboy. I'm thrilled to be on Ant's channel. I'm thrilled to talk with you guys about one of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. And as always, Ant, thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. Alright, so how this is going to work is I have a list of topics, and we're each going to give our general impressions for each one. And we're going to list the things that we like or that we don't like about them, or we could even make comparisons to other series and say which one did it better. You know, that type of thing. So I think this is going to be quite interesting because I've been following Dylan for a while now, and I noticed that we have very different opinions on things sometimes. Sometimes we have very contrasting opinions, so I'm really interested in what you have to say about this.
Yeah, Ant has attacked me in the comment sections of a few of my Arc 5 videos before. I'm kidding.
I apologize for those. So
I know. I'm just playing around.
No, I love you, Dylan. You're probably my favorite YouTuber at the moment. So.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. I love you too, Ant. That means a lot.
All right, so you ready to get started, Dylan?
Yes. So do you want to kick this off with the things so you want to start generally speaking about the things we liked about 5Ds?
I usually, when I do these things, I usually like to start with characters, but we're
actually, you know what? No, we're gonna follow your format, because this is your channel, this is your video. Let's start with characters. Let's go. Alright,
so how about we start about Yusei? I know you have a lot of, good things to say about Yusei, so how about you go first?
Okay, yeah, so Yusei is... I feel like 5Ds is probably the least series that is needed for this series that Ant has done on our channel, which I think she did Arc 5 and Zexal justice, because those two shows come under fire probably the most, and probably undeservedly the most. 5Ds and Duel Monsters are the two that probably don't need a video explaining why they don't suck, but there are still some fans who, hate 5Ds or hate Duel Monsters, and so it's completely understandable to make a video like this and to add it to the series. I think that Yusei, for me personally, is a really great character, and I feel like he gets targeted a lot by the people who hate 5Ds. I hear it so many times that Yusei is called a Mary Sue, which he kind of is. I'm not gonna sit here and obviously spew that he was not a Mary Sue. He didn't lose a single duel. He lost to Jack in a flashback before the show started, which I think was kind of cool because they show you that, going into his first duel with Jack and going into every time he dueled Jack, you knew as the viewer, even though it wasn't on screen, and it would have been nice if had it been on screen, that Jack Atlas has defeated Yusei before. And that was kind of driving him. He kind of lost to Kiryu. I always say technically I know he did not lose. Realistically, he lost. He fell off his bike, and so that's why the duel technically got stopped. But realistically, you can't, argue the fact that he was going to lose that duel. And there were some other duels that I thought he should have lost. I always say the first time he dueled Antinomy, right after that weird ceremony, that was a perfect time to give him a loss. And, so the fact that he technically never lost on screen while the show started, I understand why people say he was a Mary Sue. Another thing with Yusei is I think he had decent development. He didn't have development like Judai or Yuma. I'm not going to say that he did, but he still had what I thought was good enough development where it worked. And I know a lot of people will say, well, Yusei, he was just kind of stale. He didn't have a lot of development, but I really, really disagree with that. From the start, he was a mature, calm calculated, skilled duelist. So it's hard to kind of have as much development as someone like Yuma, who was more young and kind of immature and inexperienced. So of course, a character like Yuma is going to have much more experience, or not much more experience, much more development than a character like Yusei, just based on where the character's starting point was. But Yusei, what I loved about him, one of the best moments of 5Ds is when he had that great speech against Roger. It was the duel against Roger, or the duel against Roman in the dub, right at the end of that duel, where he has this emotional, heartfelt, angry speech. And we learned so much about him in this speech, about how torn up he is and how he's been living with the guilt his entire life that his father, it wasn't his fault, but his father's, the NRD, getting destroyed and killing Jack and Crow's parents, and that he's lived with the guilt that he feels somewhat responsible that Jack and Crow were orphans, and that if it wasn't for him and it wasn't for his dad, they would be living great lives, and he feels like he's been dragging all these people down. And so you don't really see that turmoil as much, but when you look beyond the glass, I guess you can say, and really look into Yusei as a character, you learn that he is struggling with himself, and he is struggling with this guilt, and that, as a human being, is always one of the most difficult things to overcome. Guilt, especially regarding situations that you cannot control. There was nothing Yusei could have done about that NRD situation. It was his father's. It wasn't even his father's fault. It was really Roger and Godwin's fault, and it was the Crimson Dragon's fault. Well, not the Crimson Dragon, the Earthbound God's fault. But so there were moments like that really did develop him as a character, and the more development for him wasn't more personality, it was more dueling. We saw him get the, over-top Axel Synchro Clear Mind with the Bruno duel. And so while he didn't have as much personality development, I think that a lot of the anger comes out at Yusei for people that don't like 5Ds, and I just feel like it's kind of unwarranted. To me, he's my favorite protagonist, and I guess it kind of just goes into personal taste, because I like the more mature, calm, maybe emotionally torn up inside character, but they don't show it as much, than the younger, immature character. I can just relate to the first one a little better, and so that's why Yusei really resonated with myself, and that's why I love Yusei as a character, and I think he was definitely the MVP of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds for myself and for a lot of people.
All right, you make a lot of good points there.
Sorry, I know I can rant. I apologize.
No, I love listening to all of that. Okay, so when it comes to Yusei, a lot of people think I don't like him, which is not the case at all. He's my favorite character in 5Ds. The thing is that when the first time I saw 5Ds, I was pretty young. Like, the dub came on in 2008. I was like 14 at the time, and I think Yusei is like 18 at the beginning of 5Ds, so at that age I just really couldn't relate to him all that much, and he was just so like damaged and brooding, it's like yeah, I just really couldn't relate to him all that much. I could relate to someone more like, I don't know, I guess maybe even Yuma. Yuma would seem more relatable to me at that point. Yeah, now that I went back and rewatched some episodes, because I do have to rewatch things sometimes to make these videos, it's like I really learned to like Yusei now. He seems like a very level-headed, very balanced type of character. Just my only complaint about him is that he's a straight line. He doesn't really have all that much development. It's like he starts off perfect and ends perfect, and I just personally prefer characters like Judai or Yuya. If I had to rank my protagonists, it would be like Judai first, then Yuya, then Yusei would be third. I prefer those two better because they go through these insane challenges. They were both corrupted by evil, and just it seemed like, oh my god, how are they going to get out of this? It seems like they're so helpless, and it seemed like they had to face more challenges. Now that Yusei didn't have his challenges, I just felt like when you watch Yusei duel, it's like, okay, he's gonna get out of this, for sure. He's just so, he can figure things out in a heartbeat. So I really enjoy watching Yusei now. Now that I'm older, I can relate to him more. I wish he had, more of an inner conflict, I guess. More of a challenge, I guess. I wish there was someone who was really able to challenge him and make him doubt himself. But I still really like him, though.
Yeah, no, and that is well said. And I think that, again, but you just hit the hammer on the nail, because it really is all about personal relation and personal experience, and how well can you relate to these characters. And that's why it's hard to say one character is better than another, because someone's real life journey is completely different than another person's real life journey. So a character that I can relate to might not be a character that Ant can relate to, or that someone watching this video can relate to. To go to the inner struggle portion, that is something that I actually loved about Yusei, and that's probably an unpopular opinion. I loved that while he was dealing with all of these issues and all of these challenges, and the Dark Signers and Iliaster and Zone, and, you know, the personal turmoil with his father and the self-guilt, he never fell into darkness, and I liked that about him, because it was the first time we had seen that. I love Judah. Judah is also one of my favorite characters, and I think he's probably the best developed character in all of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which might be another unpopular opinion, because Judah is another resonating character, or polarizing character, I should say. But I like that Yusei never sunk into darkness, because I have trouble rooting for a character when they needlessly and kind of selfishly, I can't say that word, sink into darkness. I think of Yami with the Orichalcos moment, even though I know that was filler. But, yeah, so I kind of like that dynamic. It was fresh. It's the only time we've ever seen it in a protagonist. But I understand, and that, again, is all comes down to personal taste.
Yeah, Yusei's still a great character. It's just that not everyone, could relate to him in certain ways. I think we said quite a bit about Yusei, so how about we move on to his rival, Jack? So, do you want to start, or do you want me to, start with this one?
You can take it. You can take it.
Alright, so this is another, fan favorite character. I know so many people love Jack, and I don't know why. I was just never really all that invested in him. From an analytical standpoint, I could see why he's a good character. He is a good character. I don't know, he does his job as a rival. He never did anything wrong to fill the role as Yusei's rival. I thought he was actually one of the better rivals out of all the Yu-Gi-Oh franchises. I think I actually might like him better than Revolver at this point. I don't know, it's just I just like other rivals more. I think Kaiba was more interesting. And yeah, nobody could beat Reiji. Reiji's a boss. So it's just that in the show, I think he was a good rival. He did his job, but that's about it. I mean, I like the moments he had with Carly. I ship him and Carly together. So I like everything that went down with Carly. But outside of the Carly stuff, I was just he's just a character in this show, and that's about it. It's not that I don't like him. It's just that if you compare him to Kaiba and Reiji, it's I just don't find him that interesting. So yeah, what do you think about him?
Yeah, that's fair. Personally, I I kind of do disagree with you pretty heavily on that. I think Jack was a really great rival, and more so than a rival, a really great character. And what I liked about Jack, first of all, his interactions with Carly, I do actually agree with you completely on that. I thought they were tremendously well done, and it shows that he went from, as he said actually in the duel against Rex Godwin, he was saved by one woman's love, and he went from this selfish character, this person who only cared about himself and only cared about winning, to someone who realized that way and that lifestyle was completely wrong, even so much to say that he was saved by Carly and saved by, again, one woman's love. And the fact that he was able to go through that so early in the show led to him going from a selfish character, which is, I think, what all the rivals start out on. Someone like Seto Kaiba never, at the end of the series, really swallowed his pride. Even you see it in even Dark Side of Dimensions. He's always this very boastful character, and I know the rival is supposed to be arrogant and maybe a little bit douchey, honestly. Apologize for the language, but with Jack, at least at the end when he loses to Yusei, he gives Yusei a fist pound and says, "That was the greatest duel I've ever had."
Yeah, I can't
imagine that was a great scene, and I can't imagine Kaiba, losing to Atem and then walking over to Atem and giving him a fist bump and say, "That was the greatest duel I've ever had." It's just, but then again, Kaiba's a completely different character, and you can love him for other reasons than,
That's the reason why I like Kaiba so much, because he's so, insane, but, that's what I love about him. It's just, he's so ridiculous.
No, and it's understandable. Kaiba is a great character, but again, and that's personal taste. For someone like me, I like a character who goes from being selfish to being one of the most, I guess you could even say, trustworthy, humble, skilled characters. And another thing, I think another reason a lot of people love Jack, not only is he an awesome, entertaining duelist, but his voice actors are really good.
I actually like his Australian accent. I know a lot of people don't like it there, but I love it.
I honestly like it, and also I think Little Karibo has helped make him as popular as he. I honestly, Little Karibo has a
Hard
lot
games
of
on motorcycles.
Yeah, that has such a big impact. People don't realize how much of an impact that has on the community, and with how Jack Atlas was portrayed in that one shot abridged, I think that also helps. But I think Jack Atlas is a really good character, and I definitely understand. I don't love him as much as some people, but I understand why he is so polarizing and so loved by the community.
I do agree with you. He is a better developed character than probably all the other rivals we've gotten. It's just that I personally just couldn't relate to him, I guess, or I just wasn't all that invested with him. I guess my main investment in this series was Yusei and Aki. Speaking of which, let's move on to our female lead. So, alright, I guess we'll do this alternating thing going on. So I guess I'll let you start off, Dylan.
Alright, well, she is my favorite. I mean, how many times have I been saying my favorite character? she is my. I'm going to come off as like one of those ignorant 5Ds fanboys. But for those of you that know me, I hope you know I'm not ignorant at all. But Aki.
You're not.
Thank you. Aunt vouches for me. Aki is. And yeah, everyone leave your opinions down below, obviously. I'll be going through the comments, and I'm sure Ant will be too. Very interested to hear all your takes on it. Aki, to me, is the best female we have seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's saying a lot, because in the middle of the show, her development, her character completely staggered in the middle of the show. But what her character did from episodes 15, when she first started, to episode, because she didn't debut till 15, I don't think, or really like in person. I know she had that Black Rose episode, the Black Rose Witch, to episode 54, the Dark Signers arc. Her development there was amazing. We got great deposition on her character. The fact that, you know, when she was younger, she just wanted to spend time with her parents. She just wanted to spend time with her dad. I think one of the episodes, it was like her birthday and her dad got a work call and had to leave the house. And that was, you know, extremely upsetting to see. And so that's when she learns about her psychic powers, because she gets really upset. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened. My memory is a little foggy on it. I haven't watched 5Ds in some time now, and there's just so many different Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows and scenes to keep track of. But yeah, we see her from a young childhood age, which I don't think we've ever really seen. I'm trying to think. We haven't seen any female character have that kind of backstory like her in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think, well, maybe Rio, but I think that's what then again, we didn't see Rio until more than halfway through Zexal. But we see her go through this internal struggle, and when she starts out as a villain. Or she starts out as definitely an anti-hero. I mean, she is playing the role of Divine's puppet, but she's part of this terrifying Arcadia movement, and she's destroying stadiums and using real-life effects due to her psychic powers, and just the journey of her being saved from herself and being saved from this horrible cult that, of course, Yusei, and that helped with Yusei's character, too, getting through to her and, you know, comforting her and being there for her. I think it became a little too reliant on Yusei with her development in the middle of the show, but by the end of the show, when she learns her psychic powers can be used for healing, and she finally goes on to accomplish her dreams as a doctor, you know, 5 years into the future that we see, and she's 22 years old and she's a doctor, which is pretty good. Geez, I'm 22. I wish I was a doctor. And, you know, I just thought her journey and her story, her backstory, her dueling abilities, even though middle of the show, it got kind of, really after the Dark Signers arc, a little bland. She didn't do much. I still thought her character, female-wise, was one of the greatest character stories and depositions we've gotten of a female character. I hope Aoi Zaizen beats her from Vrains. That would be awesome. But to me, Aki was a great female lead.
All right. Yeah, you've made a lot of good points about her. Yeah, so as some of you guys know, I have issues when it comes to the females in Yu-Gi-Oh! I have said this many times before. Why do they all, like, either die or become cheerleaders? I don't understand why the writers of Yu-Gi-Oh! Keep doing this. But I do agree that Aki is probably the best female character we've gotten out of the first 5 series. Like, she's not my personal favorite, that would be Yuzu, but she's definitely like a close second. She probably got the most shit done. She is strong, she's independent, and I love the beginning of 5Ds where we learn about her backstory and how she had these powers and she couldn't control them, and I just love that, it wasn't until Yusei came along and said like, oh yeah, you can be a part of something, you can have friends, you can be happy, that she didn't actually like let go of her past, let go of all her grudges and stuff. And I really love her. I feel like she should be an inspiration to so many people. Like, she's so damaged, she's been through so much in her past, and like you see her progression throughout the first like at least the first 65 episodes of 5Ds. After that, she's kind of a cheerleader. But like the first half of the show was like, wow, this is a really great character. Like, this is probably one of my favorite characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Of all time. Yeah, so Aki's just like a really great, well-developed character. Until she becomes a cheerleader, that is.
Don't they all?
Yeah. Like, please, Aoi, please, like, do something, fix this. Like, don't become a stereotype. So, okay, we took on the three main character stereotypes that Yu-Gi-Oh! Tends to do for every series. So let's move on to the supporting characters. So I guess that would be the rest of the signers, and I don't know if you want to include Carly in there, if you want to save her for like the villains.
Crow would probably be one.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about that. Okay. So I guess I'll start off here. The rest of the signers, apart from like Aki and Yusei and like even Jack, would probably be part of like my upper tier. I never cared about Crow. Like, the first time I saw 5Ds, I thought he was just kind of there. But then, like, when I, like, now that I'm, like, 23 and I, like, went back to watch a few episodes, and, like, I know all this stuff, like, oh, like, Crow was never meant to be a signer, and he was just there to sell Blackwings. I'm kind of salty about that. Like, he leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because Aki could have been a much better character, and maybe Crow could have been a really good villain if, like, they stuck to the original idea instead of, we need to sell Blackwings! I don't know, I don't really play the game, so I don't really like understand the obsession. Like, are Blackwings that great of an archetype? Like, I really don't know. But Crow's a character. I'm kind of salty about like what he did to Aki. The twins, I thought Luna had potential. I really liked her, like, because she reminds me of this character from Game of Thrones, who's like one of my favorite like fictional characters of all time. But like, they played up the fact in the beginning that she had, like, these powers and she could go to, like, the spirit world and all that. And then they never did anything with it. Like, I think she dueled maybe, like, 4 times in the entire show. And I was like, wow, you have this character with all these cool powers and you don't do anything with her. Like, why? I don't understand. And Leo was annoying. Like, I never cared about him. I just thought, okay, like, your sister's getting attention and you want attention, so you have to, like, act out and stuff. That's my opinion about him. And the rest of the characters, like, every other supporting character, I really just, like, they're just kind of there for me. I don't care all that much for them. Like, outside of the main cast, I'm just like, man, like, I like Carly. Carly's cool. But other than that, I'm just like, take it or leave it. Like, they didn't leave that much of an impression on me. They just kind of like progressed the plot at certain points, and that's it. They were there to like serve a role, and that's more or less how I felt about it. So what about you? What are your opinions?
Yeah, that's fair. That was well said. I am probably, it's funny because it's a 5Ds video. This is going to be kind of negative on Crow, because I feel the same way as you. I've never, and I know Crow is a popular character, but I never really enjoyed Crow, and I think it's for the same reasons as you. Had they just stuck to the original writing, I don't know what they would have done with Rex Godwin, but Crow would have been that final Dark Signer boss. Aki would have always been the character dueling with Jack and Yusei. She would have been in that final fight. And more importantly, this carries over even into Arc 5, because Aki most likely would have been the character appearing and saving Yuya in Arc 5. It wouldn't have been Crow. If Crow is a villain, they wouldn't have done Crow. And then if Aki is in Arc 5, you don't have Asuka in Arc 5, and maybe you have someone like Ryo Marufuji or Manjome, someone who is actually going to do more than just lose and get carded by Yuri. Asuka did nothing because you have a female presence in Aki. So I think it even harmed Arc 5. So I know it's unfair to blame Crow for all that, and that's honestly just obviously a theory of mine, and if you know me, I have a lot of just crazy rambling theories, but
I love your theories, though.
Well, thank you. Crow never really felt natural for me, and we know now after information was released it was kind of forced on all of us because he was supposed to be that Dark Signer's final boss, and so and you can just tell watching it didn't really feel natural, and you could tell again after the Dark Signer's arc they didn't really know what to do with him. He had that weird duel again that he actually lost. The only duel he ever lost on the show was to that like clock guy where his mom had like kicked him out, and I don't remember the middle to like end of Arc 5 or Arc 5, the middle to pre-end of 5Ds before the final arc was just kind of really weird up to the RPG arc. There were a lot of really WRPG arc, excuse me. There were a lot of really weird duels in there. So Crow I didn't like. Leo and Luna, Rua and Ruka, I'm saying their names interchanged.
I know I like the dub names better, but yeah, like
whatever names are easier. They go either way for me. Yeah, I don't mind either of them. The Aporia duel was great. I loved the development they got really in that duel. But besides that, they were both kind of forgettable. They did it. Luna did go to the spirit world in that duel against the Dark Signer, which was kind of forgettable. But besides that, as you said, they never really expanded on her power, even though that duel was like a 5-episode duel, so that, I guess, was the real meat of what her power could do. I didn't really like the villains. I thought Divine could have been an amazing villain had he not been wasted after the Dark Signers arc. But a character that I loved that you didn't mention, Kiryu, I absolutely loved the story of him, the fact that he got so power-hungry in jail, or not in jail, before he got arrested with Team Satisfaction with the Enforcers. He goes to jail. I mean, dark as hell. He starves to death because the guards just didn't feed him. He gets reborn as a Dark Signer. He, takes his, and he knows that, sure, he wants to blame Yusei, but he can only blame himself. He says it at the end of the duel, that he knew that. He just wanted to play out one last duel. And he was a good duelist. He beat Yusei. I know not technically, but realistically. And then you have a great arc with him in Satisfaction Town, where he's trying to kill himself by getting sent to the mines. And he's basically finding a new purpose to live in this, 7-8 mini arc. And I thought his story was dark. I thought it was mature. I thought it was really, really extremely well done. I know a few people have different opinions on that Crash Town arc, but I loved Kiryu as a character. I loved his story arc. Other than that, I know a lot of people love Zone. A lot of people love Aporia. They're not the kind of villains that I personally enjoy, but I understand why people like them, because they did have good backstories, they did have good motives, and I kind of just like the bat crazy villains. I don't want to say the word, but you know the word. So yeah, the side characters, I could take some, I could leave some I didn't really like, and some I loved, so mixed feelings there for me.
Yeah, I forgot what his Japanese name was, because I didn't watch the entire sub, but I think in the English name, it was Callan, was it?
Callan, yes. Another character we forgot, Bruno. Bruno was a good character. Yeah. I like Bruno a lot too.
Yeah, see, those two, I forget they're there sometimes. I don't know if it's just me, or do other people feel this way? I felt like they were just okay, they're there just to be characters in this show. I don't know why I felt that way. I know a lot of people like them. I'm just nah, they're there for plot reasons. That's more or less what I thought about them.
Well, I think, Bruno probably was, but Kiryu, I feel like with him it was a little different, because had he not had the plot didn't need to go to Crash Town. That arc, that 7 or 8 episode arc, had nothing to do with the plot. That was a complete side story, and I think that was mainly just to focus on his character. So I wouldn't say that Bruno, you could definitely make the case, what you just said, maybe there for plot reasons, but I think Kiryu was a little more different and more expansive than just being there for the plot.
So, I know you pretty much touched upon this already, but I saved this group of characters for last. I don't know if you have anything else to say about the villains, but I guess I'll give my thoughts here, just real quick.
Yeah, you go for it. Yeah, I kind of already got ahead of myself, sorry.
That's okay. You're probably more structured, and you have better opinions about this entire series than I do. Okay, so a lot of people they rave about the Dark Signers, and I remember watching this as a teenager, and it was just at first I wasn't all that impressed by it. 16-year-old me did not like this arc, but now that I went back and I rewatched an episode, I'm I understand why people think this arc is so good, because these characters are really complex, and you know me, I live by complex characters. But I don't know, I just prefer other villains from other series. But I could understand from an analytical standpoint why so many people like the Dark Signers. They are probably the most complex villains. They died and they came back to life, and they're just okay, we're gonna fuck shit up. It's whoa, this is intense. This is what drove 5Ds to become all dark and gritty. But I can barely remember and this is probably why I never talk about 5Ds all that much, because I can barely remember first of all, the plot and the villains from like the latter half of the season, like after the Darksiders, I could barely remember. Like, I can remember general things, but I can't remember like specific things that happened after that. Like, it has been a while since I watched like the entire show, but just like, for me it was just like, okay, like Zone, like he also wasn't one of my favorites, but like I could barely remember like specific duels like from that whole arc. Like, I don't know. I guess that's just my general thoughts about it. So I don't know if you have anything else you want to add there.
Yeah, the Darksiders arc I loved. As you said, I thought all the characters were complex. I thought the rivalries that they built, Misty and Aki, Carly and Jack, even though that was maybe a little more than just a rivalry, Yusei and Kiryu, I thought were all built and build up really, really well. They were all just led up really well. And yeah, I agree with you on that. Episode like 54 to episode 84 is just it's such a blur because the show was supposed to end after the Darksiders arc.
Yeah, you could tell.
Yeah, and with the amount of popularity that the show was being received, I mean, the show is received. They just came out with a list, like top 100 anime in Japan, and Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds was the highest. It was even higher than, I believe, Duel Monsters, which was kind of surprising. And actually,
wow.
Arc 5 was higher than Duel Monsters 2, which was surprising. But, you know, the fan base is kind of all over the place. And so the show was well received it was well received enough where they wanted to keep going after the Darksiders arc. And clearly, the writers were not in any way prepared for that, and it shows because, as you say, you just can't remember what happened like right after the Darksiders arc. I can barely remember what happened. There were just a lot of really, really weird one-off duels, and you could tell they had no idea what they were doing. I think they picked it up really well. I think the last 20 episodes were done tremendously well. I think the final arc was done really well. But yeah, that is definitely a gripe of 5Ds, but it goes to show that even, you know, the most maybe popular Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows, every Yu-Gi-Oh! Show has its ups and downs. Every Yu-Gi-Oh! Show.
Alright, so we got 2 topics left to cover. So we are going to move on to plot. I guess I'll start this one off. I think that 5Ds is the most, like, well-received series out of, like, well, if you don't count Vrains in there, it's probably like the most well-received series we've gotten so far. So when it comes to the plot, I think that the problems with it are, okay, when you have series like Arc 5 and GX, they had moments where like they fell on their ass several times. It crashed and burned so hard. And I think even like Zexal, if you count the beginning, that counts too. 5Ds was always like, there was never any moments where it like completely fell on its ass. Every episode was more or less good. It ranges from good to like amazing, fantastic, that type of thing. For me, it's like, I'd rather have a series like Arc 5 where it's like it has moments that fell on its ass, but there were a few moments that it's like, they just go beyond my expectations. But for me, 5Ds was more like a straight line. It was just like every episode was more or less just like, okay, or like good, or like I enjoyed it, but like I wouldn't like go back and watch it again. That's just my opinion on it, and I know every single person in the universe disagrees with me there. So yeah, so it was just like, for me it was like a straight line. For other people, I know they'll say otherwise. I know, Dylan, you're probably gonna say otherwise, right?
I am gonna say otherwise. Yeah, there are quite a few moments that I've watched that I'll go back and watch a few times. One of them is the end of the Yusei Roger duel where he gives that speech and he gets Stardust back on the field, and they were just iconic moments, I think, from 5Ds that you can rewatch, and I think did go above expectations. A lot of people love that Yusei and Zone duel, and while that's not my favorite duel for, I don't know, I just think it gets a little complicated and crazy at times, and while I didn't love that duel, I loved the moment of Yusei finally being able to summon the Quasar, and that shooting Quasar summon was beautiful. You had Bruno's permanent death, which is a scene that I've rewatched plenty of times. It is the saddest scene in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime for me, mainly because it is a permanent death. You have the end of the Aporia Jack Ruaruka duel, which is on YouTube. I think that has like 500,000 views, and I've watched that clip at least 1,000 times. So I do disagree. I do believe that there were moments in the Darksiders arc, in that Season 5 arc, where the plot was just incredibly well done. The emotion was incredibly well done. The deposition, the dueling was incredibly well done. I will say that, again, I've said it so much, after the Darksiders and before the WRPG, they could have done a little bit better. They could have had like an 8-episode miniseries for all the 4 main characters. They could have done it for Well, you said they did it with Crashtown. I guess they did it with Jack too, getting Scar Red Nova Dragon, which was his first summoning of that was an amazing moment. That was 13 episodes that were never dubbed in English for whatever reason. I think there was some lawsuit going on. But they could have done another like 8 episodes for Aki with the Arcadia movement, for Crow, for the twins, and had they done that instead of the random one-off duels that really made no sense and didn't fit in, Jack Atlas, beating up some like mob boss and being chained to some conveyor belt. There were weird duels, man. There were weird duels that happened in the middle of 5Ds, and I think that was where the plot was weak. But besides that, I think the plot was usually very strong, and for me personally, there were plenty of moments that I can think of that really just hit the hammer right on the nail and went above my expectations for the duel or the commentary, whatever it may be.
Yeah, for me, I just don't know why I was just never like all that invested. I think I was pretty invested in the Dark Signers arc, but like the rest of 5Ds is just like a blur to me. Like I was just never like all that invested in it, and that it's just, it comes down to personal preference. It's like I can understand from an analytical standpoint why so many people love this series, so many people talk about it to death. I know people that it's like they don't like Yu-Gi-Oh, but they like 5Ds, so it's personal preference, I guess. I just really like Arc 5. I just think like Arc 5 was super ambitious, and I really like that about it. But yeah, this series was just always like middle of the pack for me. So don't kill me, please don't kill me, like all you fanboys out there. Okay, so we just have one last topic to talk about, and that's gonna be how does it compare to the other series? So you want to start this one off?
Yes. So I have said multiple times that I will never do a video pitting one show against another.
I'm making you do that, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm not going to give full spoiler away, but I will say out of the 5 shows, it's way too early to put Vrains on that list. 5Ds is one of my top 2. I believe I've said that before. I'm not going to say if it's number 1 or number 2. The reason I don't like to talk about it is I think it does nothing but bring negativity and bring the worst out of people, and that's not really what my goal is to do. But obviously, at the same time, it does make for a polarizing debate, and I would love to give my top 5, top 6 lists, but honestly, I just don't want to deal with the negativity that's going to inevitably come along with it. But I love 5Ds, and as I just said, it is one of my 2 favorite shows. It's right up there, either 1 or 2. I won't say which one exactly. I think it pits up well to any of the shows, honestly. The weak point, it's tough because I think the weak point is one of the weaker points of any Yu-Gi-Oh series we've gotten, to be completely honest, which is that like 30 episodes dry span. But with that being said, it also has two of the greatest arcs ever done in Yu-Gi-Oh, the Dark Signers arc and the Neo Arc Cradle arc. And a lot of people like the WRGP arc too. I wasn't too fond of that. That was mainly Season 4. But I think that those 2 arcs were so tremendously well done that it makes up for the lackluster 30 episodes we got. Another thing I loved, and I want to know your opinion, Ant, because I'm done after this, the music, the OST was incredible. I loved the 5Ds OST, probably my favorite OST. What did you think of like the music of the show?
Okay, the music, so you're talking about the sub version specifically?
The sub version, yes.
Yeah, okay, I'm actually more familiar with the 5Ds dub because I was a teenager when I watched the series from beginning to end, but from what I've seen of the sub, like, it has some of the best openings and endings, like, ever. It's just, oh my god, those openings are like, I have them on my phone, I listen to them on the bus, and like, the music in general, it's like, I forgot which episode it was, but it was one where, you remember, like, when Yusei was crying? And he was like talking about like like Jack and Crow were like orphans because of me.
Yes, it was the one against Roger. Yeah, I've referenced that like twice. Yeah, that was that episode. Yeah, that was a great episode.
Yeah, like that was like, I think the music matched perfectly in that episode with like Yusei's mood and all that. I thought it was like, yeah, the music in 5Ds was just so like on point. But like, the Japanese version is usually good, like with music. Like not like, as you guys know, I never shit on the dub. I've seen like every single Yu-Gi-Oh dub ever, but the Japanese, they just do it so much better. So yeah, and 5Ds in particular was just like the music of everything about it was just so on point.
Yeah, I know one girl who might comment on this. she does not like 5Ds, but she says the only reason I watch 5Ds is for the music. So even the people that hate 5Ds say that the music is incredible, and it really is. It really does have some really great pieces of music.
Yeah, that music was pretty awesome. Like, it has some of my favorite openings out of like any Yu-Gi-Oh series to date. So I guess I'll just like give my final thoughts here, and then that's pretty much the end of the video. So like, a lot of you guys think I hate this series with a passion, that like I want it to just like die. I don't know where people get that impression. Never once have I said I ever like hated 5Ds. It's just, it's not my favorite. That's all. It's just like I just like other series more. Like, GX is more for personal reasons, because it got me through a tough time in my life, and like I really like Judai as a character. And Arc 5 also got me back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, earlier this year I binge watched the whole thing and then started making videos about it, and that's how I found you, Dylan. I don't know, 5Ds was just always just like, I don't know, it just, I would like watch it. I remember watching the dubbed episodes on TV, and it would just like be in like the background. Like, I wasn't all that invested in what was going on. And when I actually did decide to sit down and watch it for real, I was just like, okay, like this is another Yu-Gi-Oh series. It's good. It's good, and it's like it has a lot of good moments. It's just, it's not my favorite. That's all I have to say about it. So if I had to like rank all the series, it's currently somewhere in the middle, I guess. That's all. That's just my opinion. Don't kill me, all you fanboys. Like, all you fanboys, I know you all hate me like every time I talk about 5Ds, but like, yeah, that's all I have to say. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of our discussion today. So I thank you, Dylan, for helping me out with this.
Thank you so much for having me on, Ant, and everyone leave your thoughts down below. Don't be too harsh on her. I know she doesn't get the same vibe that us fanboys get, but it's understandable. We gotta respect each other's opinions, and just, you know, keep your comments positive, and I'll be in the comment section. I look forward to responding to you. But no, Ant, you did give some great points, and it was a great discussion, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on.
So once again, I thank you so much for coming on. Like, I think you made a lot of fanboys really happy today. So yeah, that should take a little bit of heat off of me. So yeah, that's gonna be about it for today. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day.